Hello and welcome to the Login. It was Bruce Springsteen who famously sang that you can't start a fire without a spark. With me today to show just what that spark can do is serial entrepreneur Dan Ware. Hi Dan, thanks for coming into the Login. We're going to talk about your new initiative, The Spark, in a minute, but let's start by hearing a bit more about you. 30 seconds on your history, Dan Ware.
Okie doke. Oh, wow. Compacting it into 30 seconds. Okay. So I grew up in Poole, went to Poole Grammar School. Absolutely love Poole, Bournemouth Christchurch. Really, really passionate about the place. I moved away for a decade, went to London, went to Australia for a bit, went to Spain, and then came back. I had a baby, wanted a sort of different pace of life, and got totally the opposite. Ended up being in the right place, right time, working for a company called the Richmond Group, then started up my own businesses, fintech, and yeah, the past 15 years has been bonkers.
How would you sum up your career to date?
It's been a roller coaster. Enormous highs. We've won 2 Sunday Times Best Companies, 2 BDO Profit Tracks, 50 industry awards, employed hundreds of people. It's been amazing. I've also had businesses that have gone into administration, been under regulatory scrutiny, some real crushing lows as well.
Yes, we're going to develop that a little bit in a moment. But what's been your biggest learning, even when things have been going well?
Being surrounded by the right people, showing honesty, showing integrity, showing humility, and always working hard, always trying to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and also developing the people that sit around you.
It's easy to be upbeat and bubbly as a personality when everything is rosy, but how did you cope when things weren't going so well?
It's the sign of leadership. It's you fake it till you make it. I've always believed as a leader, you have a responsibility to lead from the front. There's 2 types of leadership, in my opinion. Number one is you are at the front, in front of all of your troops, and you are deflecting everything. Then there's a second type of leadership, which is, works in certain settings where you sit behind the scenes, you're in a tower, and you orchestrate the people on the front lines. In the communities that I've operated in startups, I've always believed in leading from the front, and that's always been so important to me.
But being an entrepreneur and setting up a business, it's a tough thing to do. And those of us that have made that leap in our lives, there's a multitude of reasons behind that. What motivated you to want to be an entrepreneur?
I think, 2 reasons. 3 reasons probably. I think it's ingrained in you. I always wanted to make money. I always had a lot of ideas. The Richmond Group, working with people like James Bedamore and Mark Biles, it's difficult to not feel inspired. It's difficult to not be creative. And also, to be honest with you, Chris, I'm unemployable. I really, really am. I'm difficult to work with. I have a way of working. I'm absolutely relentless. I'm really, really hardworking. And when I'm in somebody else's environment and somebody else's culture, that can sometimes be seen as disruptive. So I decided I was going to create the type of businesses that I wanted to work for. And I wanted to surround myself with people that complemented me, that we could go on a journey together, a journey of support, collaboration, communication, transparency, and a lot of fun as well.
It's a really interesting point you've made. You wanted to make money. That was your. Some people view that as a really bad outlook on life, but they ignore the fact that we've all got to earn money to survive. But money is a driving force.
It really
Why?
is. We didn't have a great deal when I was growing up. So my mum was a young single parent for a long period of time. We didn't have a great deal of money growing up. My biological father was not very present, and my stepfather worked really, really hard for not a great deal for a long period of time. He had a really fabulous job working for Ferrari in the New Forest, but as a salesman. So it was real peaks and troughs. He was very, very commission based. So I was fortunate enough to grow up in quite a middle class setting. I grew up in firstly in Spetsbury, then in Wimborne. So everyone around us had quite a lot. They went skiing, they went on summer holidays. They had nice trainers, nice football boots, and I never really had that. And I really wanted, when I was a grown-up, to ensure that I didn't have to worry about money and I could have those things. But also, much more importantly, I could provide those things for my family. As I've got older, I've realised that those material things aren't actually what make me happy. I've been very, very fortunate. I've had great holidays, nice cars, good clothes, all of that side of things. And it's
I'd
totally
never have guessed about the good clothes.
Thanks, mate. And yeah, it's just you just realise that isn't what's important at all.
We don't know each other at all well. We've just had a couple of conversations, but what you've just said resonated with me because as a kid, I came from a family that didn't have much money. My mum used to clean offices.
Yep.
My dad was disabled. He got shot in World War II
Wow.
and had bad injuries. And it was, for me, it's always been a driving factor through my life, seeing the struggles that they had and then trying to overcome them and say, right, that's not going to be me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can resonate with that.
Totally.
I get it too.
And also, one of the things as well is, growing up in the 1980s in somewhere like Spetsbury, my mum being 21 when she had me, so she was the youngest parent by 10, 15 years. They were all professionals, either, proper housewives or accountants or doctors or whatever it was. And my mum, with all due respect to her, was a legal secretary. Yeah. So she was really looked down upon by being a young single mum. And so I had an enormous chip on my shoulder for a long period of time. And I felt like an underdog, and I wanted to prove people wrong. I wanted to, because we were judged, people didn't include me, people didn't include my mum. I wanted to, again, create an environment where people valued me.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like the underdog anymore. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I totally get that. I don't know if our microphone's picked up, but we've just had helicopters flying overhead. It's either the Royal Marines out on manoeuvres in Poole Harbour, or World War III's about to start, and we'll never finish this podcast. So let's hope it's the former.
Yeah.
You've got a young family.
I have.
And how do you combine being a busy executive with the demands of home? I mean, that's something that I found a real struggle in my entrepreneurship career.
I don't sleep very much. I sleep sort of 4 or 5 hours a night. I'm up every single day by 4:30. I'm so enthusiastic about life, and I try and compact as much experience into my life as I possibly can. So the way that I balance it, really, and I don't balance it very well, and I have got it wrong so many times, especially with my eldest son. So my eldest son is 18, and I had him in a previous relationship, and his mum and I split up when he was 5. So he was with me every weekend, but not during the week. So that meant I could really, really focus on my job during the week. And then I could compartmentalize at the weekends. But, I was still tired and I was still stressed and all of that side of things. Now, with having a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old and a 4-week-old, that balance is a heck of a lot harder. But as I say, I get up early, I work as hard as I possibly can. And also, I have a wife that tells me how it is. She is absolutely amazing. She's most certainly my better half. And she really challenges me. If I'm being a fool, or I'm focused too much on something, or I'm not adhering to my responsibilities as a father, which is obviously my number one responsibility, then there's no ifs, no buts. She tells me. And she puts me straight.
Poor woman. She must have her hands full.
5 blokes in the house. Yeah. She's amazing.
You're the founder of an umbrella company.
I am.
Called Big Golden Pineapple.
Correct.
Why that name? And what do you do there?
So BGP was the business that we created after DGS UK Limited, which was our very, very successful lender that went into administration, went. So BGP was Big Golden Pineapple was it was really a sign of the times and the sign of the next stage of my professional development. So the reason why it was called Big Golden Pineapple was, well, twofold. Number one, pineapples they're good luck. They're regenerative. You can grow a new pineapple from the top of another pineapple. But also in 2015, the FCA took over from the OFT. So the FCA were the new regulator for the financial services industry. And we were told that we were too small to get FCA authorization as a high cost short-term credit lender, which is what Piggy Bank did. So we were understandably pretty terrified, especially my co-directors. But again, I'm very, very good in a crisis situation. I have 100% self-belief that I can make things happen, and with the correct people around me, then anything's possible. So again, that underdog, that chip on my shoulder, that focus on outcomes. So for a year, we toiled away, and we were the first high-cost short-term credit lender to receive authorization from the FCA. So we went from being told it was impossible to being the first. So that was remarkable. My son, who was, he would have been 7 or 8 at the time, gave me a golden pineapple, and I kept it on my desk, and it was just lucky for me from there on in. So that's where it came from. So yeah, but BGP really, as you say, it's an umbrella company. It invests and supports numerous different fintech businesses. So basically, what fintech is financial technology, or technology for financial services, or technology for financial inclusion, whichever way you kind of want to look at it. Yeah. So what we do at BGP, which is a business that I'm involved in a little bit less now, because that business is being led by 3 amazing people who are a heck of a lot more proficient than I am. Right. So it's essentially about financial inclusion and ensuring that people that need financial services products have access to as many different options as humanly possible.
And you've got several different arms to it, haven't you?
Yes, correct. So yeah, there's a creative side of it, there's a brokerage side of it, there's a lending side of it, and we operate in the UK, in the US, and also in Nigeria.
You got recruitment as well, is that right?
So not anymore. No.
Okay.
So we've sold that business now.
All right. Okay. I think I've got an idea what you're going to say here, but how would you describe your personality?
So I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very hardworking. I'm very positive. My dear old grandma, that's no longer with us, she said that I always look towards the sun, and I love that. I always have the shadows behind me, and I've always been the same ever since I was a little boy. 2 reasons for that. 1, because I think it's in my makeup. Number 2, I've always been a real people pleaser. That's always been quite important to me, and I've always had a level of emotional intelligence, which has really made up for a lack of academic intelligence in my life. So it's been a real fine balance. I try now less to please people. I try and stay a little bit more true to myself, at the same time whilst being positive and whilst being enthusiastic and whilst having a real love of experiences with people.
You and I are sort of like yin and yang here, because I never try and please anybody. I sort of revel in being a grumpy old bugger, and but there are similarities here between us as well. And you cover a lot of different roles, and which one of those roles is your favourite? And then, contrary to that, what do you do out of necessity and you'd rather not?
Oh God, great questions. So I guess the role that I have that I love the most is being a founder. And I have ADHD. I'm definitely neurodiverse in numerous fields. So I find concentration really, really challenging. So when you take on the founder role, you are a marketeer, you're an accountant, you're an operations person, you're a salesperson. And I love that because it means every day is different. It means I'm meeting different people, selling the dream, and I really, really buzz on that. What I'm terrible at is compliance. Terrible at compliance.
Admin.
Yeah, admin as well. Dreadful. But again, I've got amazing people around me. So I have a compliance expert who's been working with me since 2011. Funnily enough, so she is amazing, incredible, probably one of the most important people in my professional story. And she's tried to retire on 4 or 5 separate occasions, and I just haven't allowed her to. And one day she's going to say, do you know what? You don't have any control over me. I just say, I'm just still going to pick up the phone to you, and I'm still going to ask you.
So you're a bully as well, is that right?
Definitely not. I'm persuasive. I'm persuasive.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the specifics of BCP here.
Yeah.
Why is it so important to you what's going on in and around BCP?
It's so important because it's where I've chosen to cultivate my life. It's where my family live. It's where my friends are. It's where my businesses are. It's where I invest in people both professionally and personally. And I want to ensure that people have as many options as possible. I want to do my bit to cultivate a positive environment.
What's the local marketplace like? I mean, there's been some high profile companies leaving the
Yeah,
area recently.
absolutely.
And I know you've been quite vocal about
Yeah.
giving your views on that. But what do you see as the local marketplace for your business?
I think we've got. I think it's a really broad question. I think foundations, very strong foundations, have been laid over the past 15, 20 years in what I do, in technology. There's some amazing people doing incredible things. But I feel that also people have rested on their laurels a tiny bit. And I feel that there's always an opportunity to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and there's always an opportunity to really, really drive forward for the greater good. So when I first started my mission with the Spark, there were numerous high-profile people within BCP that showed a total lack of support because I wasn't in the fold, if you like. It didn't matter that I founded 13 businesses in BCP and employed over 500 people. I wasn't in the fold. I hadn't put on clever events, you know. I hadn't stood in front of 250 people and told jokes and told my stories. I was seen as a little bit of an outsider. So again, it's that chip on my shoulder mentality. It's that feeling like the underdog. It's the, you can't tell me what I can and can't do. This is how I feel. And okay, you're either with me or not. And that's absolutely fine. I totally respect you. I'm not going to get silly, but I'm still going to drive forward on my mission, regardless of what you think about it.
Well, you haven't actually spoken about the Spark yet. And
Yeah.
obviously, we're going to. So,
Yeah.
so now seems like a good time as you
Yeah.
mentioned it. Tell me, what is the Spark?
So in a nutshell, the Spark is a platform for business and entrepreneurial growth in BCP. So essentially, its mission really is to increase the amount of communication and storytelling for businesses in BCP, to increase the amount of collaboration. So we try and ensure that as many pounds stay within BCP as humanly possible, and to increase community. So really have people working together, telling their stories, enjoying working together and having a lot of fun. So keeping that money within the local economy, which obviously increases the economic growth. You know, the more we support one another, the more money stays within the conurbation. The more money that stays within the conurbation, the more business grows. The more business grows, the more resource that you need. The more resource that you need, more housing that you need. The more housing and resource that you need, the more opportunity that you have for culture, music, restaurants, and all of a sudden everything grows up. So it's like what I see with the Spark is it's not clever. It's just creating a platform for people to tell their stories. The Spark is throwing a big stone in a lake, and then it's everybody else who are the ripples that come out from that.
You recently hosted, through the Spark, the Local and Vocal event in Poole.
I did.
Tell me about that and how did it work out?
It was fabulous. It was amazing. So, really, really good buddy of mine. We were sat in Rockwater. We have we have a support group session. My buddy David and I every week, and he couldn't be any less like me. He's like you, Chris. He's very
What a grumpy bastard!
He's a bit of a grumpy bastard, but he's enormously successful. And he
He's like me,
like you, exactly like you.
I wish.
But he seems to find he finds all of his successes in life are almost a mild irritation to him. He has created this amazing sustainable solution for Spirits Miniatures that is going bananas, and it's an irritation that it's taking him from, you know, his static bike cycling or spending time with his daughter or enjoying his time with his wife or pottering around in his garden. It's just amazing. Anyway, he's a very, very cool guy, very good friend. So we were sat in Rockwater, and we were talking about the next stage of the Spark. And I said, you know, what I really, really love to do is I'd love to cultivate an event that really showcases the pride of Dorset. So looking at all the different avenues, looking at produce, looking at drink, looking at people, looking at all of those things, getting it together all in a room, and everybody can just celebrate what makes Dorset Dorset. And he said, well, why don't you do it then? I said, okay, I'll do it. That was January. So picked up the phone to Emma, who's the GM over at Foundry, and said, I'd really, really like to do this. She is amazingly supportive of my enthusiasm and follies and just anything really. They've been amazing over at Foundry. And she said, how many people? And I said, about 50. She said, okay, yeah, I can do that for you. So I put 50 tickets out on the internet. They went within 4 or 5 hours. I had nobody to showcase, nothing to do, no plan or anything. I thought, wow, I better get busy with that. So picked up the phone to a couple of people, a couple of drinks providers, a couple of food providers, a couple of businesses to showcase, a few friends, and they loved it. So I thought, well, okay, well, I'll do 75 tickets. And then 75 turned into 100, and 100 turned into 150, and then 200, and then 220. And then that turned into a mild heart attack for Emma and the guys at the Foundry. But it was just an amazing event. So it was networking in its purest sense. But again, like the culture of businesses that I've created, I wanted to create a networking event that I wanted to go to. Yeah. I didn't want stuffy people in suits going around shoving business cards in your face. I wanted an environment where people were happy. I don't drink myself, but people are a little bit lubricated. People are walking around talking about good food, talking about great produce, speaking to these people, doing these really, really inspiring things in Dorset, and really kind of letting their guard down so that they can talk about business. Again, communication, collaboration, and community.
Yeah, I went to the event for an hour or so, and I hate with a passion networking events. I'm sorry,
surprised me.
Yeah, yeah. It involves dealing with people, which is strange considering I host the podcast. But I have this view, and I'm sorry to say this to you as somebody who's involved in fintech, but a view of solicitors, financial advisors, life coaches, all standing there, no matter which event you go, all being exactly the same, in their suits, handing out leaflets telling you that they're about to change the world for you. I must admit, I wanted to go because I knew you were coming on the podcast, and that was the only reason I wanted to go. Hold my hands up. It completely changed my perception. It really did. And I mentioned to you earlier before we came onto the recording that I went to another networking event, which was exactly what I was fearing. But your event, I really enjoyed.
Good. I'm really pleased to hear that. Thank you for the feedback.
And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not saying that because you sat here. I really did enjoy it. And I met 2 people actually that I spoke to, which I can't go into details because it's early stages. But I really hope that we're going to be doing business with them.
Excellent.
And so that's exactly what you intended to achieve, isn't it?
Communication, collaboration, community. Yeah. Exactly what it's all about. And again, getting nice people together. I'm really, really fortunate that I've got to a stage in my career where I choose who I work with. Yeah. And I work with people that are like me. I work with people that are focused on doing the right thing, and I also work with people that are enthusiastic and passionate about what they do. It doesn't mean we have to agree on every single thing, but those fundamental pillars of transparency, communication, and community are really, really important to me, and I just don't have to compensate that anymore.
I think something that gets lost a lot in business these days is business loyalty.
100%.
I'm really, really big on that. And that is across the board. I'm loyal to my staff. The freelancers that we work with have mostly worked with us for years and years and years. And I'm loyal to my customers. But I don't know if you find the same, but it's an increasing battle, and loyalty is just going out the window these days. And it's such a shame.
Yeah, it really is. So I work with 4 guys at Big Golden Pineapple who are all shareholders in my business. One of them is slightly different because he's a chartered accountant, and he joined my journey probably 8 years ago. The other 3 guys all started with me in the call centre. They've all been with me for 10 or 11 years, and they've all grown with me. We've been through peaks and troughs together. And that understanding that you have and that respect that you have with one another, because, there's no story without struggle at the end of the day. And our stories are intertwined and shared. And that loyalty and that respect for one another is totally reciprocal. So it's not a, a boss and a subordinate relationship. It never has been, or it hasn't been for a very long period of time. There is a real mutual understanding and respect and communication and transparency, and those real key pillars of integrity are what sort of get me up in the morning. And again, it goes back to around loyalty, integrity. If you shake hands on a deal, the deal's done. I don't care if we've got a contract. If you shake my hand, then the deal's done. And if that deal then doesn't happen, I never work with you again. Regardless of how financially, it screws me, we are done after that point. We still may be friends. We may still have a beer. I'm still going to be polite if I see you in the street, but once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah, I'm very much the same, actually. It disappoints me when people let me down.
Yeah.
And when you get to my age, Dan, you'll realise that also you get more and more cantankerous about things when it does happen as well.
Yeah.
And I don't tolerate it anymore.
Yeah, that's great.
And I've also got to the stage, and I don't know if this resonates with you as well, but I've got to the stage where clients I will now walk away from
100%.
if they treat me badly. And
Definitely.
And that for young entrepreneurs starting out, that's a really hard thing to do when you don't know when your next meal's coming from.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it.
But sometimes you need to. And that's so difficult, isn't it?
It really is. It's really challenging. But again, it goes back to those core pillars. Everything in life goes back to those core pillars of, transparency is super important. Trust is really important, and also remembering that what your focus is in life, and you may make mistakes along the way. You may divert from what your true focus should be, but you need to look after yourself, and you need to look after those people that are closest to you.
I've got 3 children who are all somewhat grown up now, and all through their life, I've said to them that you can be academically brilliant, you can be great at sports, but one thing that you must have in your life is good communication 100%. Skills. If you can communicate, you can get out of any or get into any situation well.
Totally.
And I just banged on about it. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, is 16. And for years and years and years as a kid growing up, why are you going on about communication, Dad? Now she's starting to see it.
100%.
And not enough people communicate well. And I think it's a big driver for business. You've said it already.
100%, yeah.
What did you learn from the Spark event?
What did I learn? That's a really good question. So I learned that people are really passionate about Dorset. I learned that there is so much opportunity to do amazing things here in Dorset. And I also learnt that we still have a long way to go to hit all of our targets that we have. But that's great.
As an events organizer, you mean, or
Both.
as businesses?
So I learnt a heck of a lot from an events organizer, from a Spark perspective. Iterative improvement is very important to me, but also from a conurbation, from a county, there's so much opportunity, so much that we can do, and people are starting to wake up to that. One of the things, the whole on-buy situation, without going too far down the rabbit hole on that, that really helped me from a public perception point of view, because it opened doors for me. There were a lot of people that were saying, we're not struggling as a conurbation, and things are better than they always have been, and harping back to studies and facts and stats from 2015 to 2016. And it was challenging to overcome that resistance, and doors were being slammed in my face. Then all of a sudden, this big, high-profile, worldwide business is saying, well, actually, we're leaving the conurbation because of X, Y, and Z, regardless of the legitimacy of those points. And some of those points can be called into question, but that's not my fight. People listened, and all of a sudden, I had a platform to say, I'm not saying what's happened in the past is bad. In fact, I'm saying quite the opposite. We've laid some really solid foundations. I'm also saying what's happening today isn't bad. But what I'm saying is we have an opportunity. So let's not look back at the past and give ourselves big pats on the back because in 2016 we were the fastest growing digital economy in the UK. Let's try and make that happen again. And let's not just look at the square and see challenges with people with empty shop, people with substance abuse issues and the empty shops. Let's actually drive forward collectively and collaboratively to really, really make the next generation of business in BCP as fruitful as possible. And people saw what I was doing as a political initiative at first, and it's really, really not. The local authority has got absolutely no money whatsoever. Their focus is on vulnerable children and adults, exactly as it should be. Central government, I don't know anything about politics. What I know is I know startups, I know business, I know how to grow business, and I know basic unit economics, i.e. if you have £1 and you spend that pound in an area, then that pound stays within the area, and that's good for the area. If you spend that pound out of the area, then it means that the area is not benefiting.
Yes,
very simple.
Gone forever, pretty much, isn't it?
Basic unit economics.
Yeah. What are the main barriers for growth in the region, do you think?
One of the main barriers really is around silos and the lack of collaboration, and the lack of platform to tell the positive stories that are going on. There are some, as I say, there are millions of people doing super cool things, and there are some really, really fantastically supportive people within the silos. I think about Ian at the Dorset Chamber as an example. Dorset Chamber, an amazing organisation. I think about Scott Wright at BU, fabulous. Dan Cox at AUB. There are so many people that are really, really supportive of growth and really are not looking back to the past. They're looking forwards to how we can be better as a conurbation. But they're also mindset holds you back, and the resting on your laurels, and also a fear of change. That's ingrained in all of us. We all have a fear of the unknown, and we all have a fear of change, and we also have a fear that somebody's going to come and swoop in and take what's ours. At the end of the day, with the Spark, I'm not trying to take anything from anybody. I'm not trying to get anybody's take anybody's pie. I don't make any money out of the Spark. If I was focused on maximizing my income, I'd just be doing my investments in fintech. I wouldn't be doing the BCP Spark, I tell you.
It's the same for me with this podcast.
Absolutely.
It's just trying to get local businesses, personalities, etc., out there and just sharing their story and their message. I don't do it for money.
No,
and it's if I don't get any, so
well, that's good you don't do it for money though.
How do you think business in the area is going to look in 5 years, especially with reference to the growth of AI?
I think we're moving forward in the right direction. I think there are some amazing startup businesses that are being cultivated by initiatives like the Spark. The Richmond Group as well, that were Amigo, they're making some fabulous investments. They've also got some really cool stuff going on themselves from a lending perspective. Also, you have a lot of shared office space, which really cultivates great business networking. So what they're doing over at Foundry, what they're doing at Patch, what they're doing at WeWork, what they're doing at Born Space, it really cultivates innovation. It really gives a platform really for communication, for growth, and for collaboration. I really, really hope that we're starting to see green shoots from the university, and the university seems to want to play again with us in the startup world. They changed their focus. I mean, I don't know what the mandates of the university are, but they changed their focus to be doing work with the enormous organisations, the JPs, the Vitalities, all of that sort of thing. And you're never going to be really able to influence that many people's lives, and you're not going to be able to be that innovative. And also, they have no tie to the area. They're here because they're here. If they get a better option, they'll leave, just the same as Barclays did. Whereas if you're supporting startups and scale-ups that are founded here, people that have their roots here, very, very different, and it's a much bigger opportunity, in my opinion.
You referenced BCP Council, and obviously they don't have much money. Some of that, let's get controversial here for a minute, but some of that's squandered, in my opinion. But hey, that's another subject. Do you think they help or hinder business in BCP?
I think that they do the best that they possibly can do. I have to say, I have been enormously supported by BCP Council. In particular, Claire Main, who is one of the economic development officers. She's fabulous. Just the amount of introductions that she's given me. She is a shining light. Amy Orchard as well, who works on internal development. She's fabulous. And I've got to know a couple of the people that are operating a little bit more senior as well. Mike Cox, who I don't know what his official title is, but he is very, very senior in terms of the financial side of the council. And he's a really, really cool guy. He's really sensible. He's really pragmatic. He's really forthright in his communication. And what you get from several of the councillors who I know, personally as well, is you get transparency, and that's what we want from people that are in public office. We don't want to be treated like fools, like a certain group of people did during COVID. You want to be spoken to like you're a grown up. We can deal with it. The situations at BCP Council are not just limited to BCP Council. There are some really, really pivotal socio-economic issues going on across the whole country, and anybody that's expecting a new government or a new leader of the council or new people to come in and wave a magic wand and for everything to be okay is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. But you can rest assured that there are some great people doing some amazing things within the council, but they are hamstrung by obviously a correct focus on vulnerable children and adults.
We've already touched on this, but I'd like to go back on it. None of us are getting any younger, and as we age, it's fair to say that we get more cynical and resistance to change can develop. And you've talked about resistance
Absolutely.
to change. What's your long-term strategy for the rest of your life, in terms of business and balancing business?
God, that's such a great question. I just want to be the best version of myself that I can be. I want to be the best father, the best husband, the best colleague, the best friend.
You ain't making it at the moment. I'm just step up, man. Step up.
I'm just trying to learn. I'm just trying to be iterative improvement. I'm just trying to use as much of the platform that I've cultivated for as much good as I possibly can. And I don't mean, there are some amazing people doing wonderful charitable good and altruistic good and all of that side of things, and I have so much respect for those people, but that isn't my mission. My mission is related to business, and that means you can still do good. You can still focus on sustainability and correct outcomes and supporting and doing the right thing and transparency and all of those kind of core pillars, whilst also being commercial in your mindset.
You come across as very driven, and you've said that you are, and it's clear to see. What do you think you've still got to achieve in life?
I really, really don't know the answer to that. I've never really had a great deal of goals, to be honest with you. I've always just, as I've gone through life, just things have come up, and then I've focused my energy on them. Life's like a book, right? You decide what experiences, what people, what challenges are going to be sentences, paragraphs, chapters within the storybook of your life. And I really, really believe as you go through the storybook, the narrative changes all the time. The end point changes, the people that are important change, and also your perspective on things change. And it comes really from the people that you meet along the way, the experiences that you have, and also from growth, from growth within. As I say, I spent so many years trying to people please and just being so focused on these kind of core, like, external metrics to be pillars of success. What car I drove, where I was going on holiday, my house, my business, awards, all of that side of things. And I realized that it gave me no fulfillment whatsoever. The first the first time that I won a Sunday Times Best Company, we were voted the 26th best company SME to work for in the UK, and I was so proud. The following day, I woke up worried because I thought, how am I going to replicate that, and how am I going to get better? And it isn't a great way to live your life. So I do a lot of coaching now with kids. I run 2 football teams, as well as obviously all the other bits and pieces that I do. And I really believe in winning. I really believe in pushing yourself. I really don't believe in this whole, participation thing. Everybody's a winner. Everybody turns up with a medal. Because the biggest learnings I've had in my life have come from failure. Yeah. That's where the biggest opportunities have come. That's where I found out the most about myself, and also the most about the people around me, who actually is in my corner, or who is saying they're in my corner because they're stuck to me because they think they're going to benefit.
You've just said something that strikes a chord with me. I had an original career in banking.
Okay.
And I was doing my banking professional qualifications as a young guy, and I'd had a good education at grammar school. I went to full grammar like you.
Amazing.
And I'd never failed an exam, and I failed one of my banking exams, and the impact on me was like, that's never going to happen again. It did actually, but but I got through it, and I was still very young, and that's the driving force for me as well. It's like, you've got to do the best you can and live with the outcomes if they don't always work out. That's and deal with them.
Absolutely it. Yeah. So when my business went into administration, that was really, really tough, because it had been... Being Dan Ware, the CEO of DGS UK Limited, was my identity. It was my primary core identity. And I had never, ever worked so hard at something in my entire life. And it was, by every single metric, enormously successful. And I felt so unbelievably hard done by because of the reasons why it went into administration. Just in a nutshell, basically, the regulator made a change to the way that lending practices should be, and then suggested that retrospective redress was given based on the new rules of the day. So imagine if the road outside your house is a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. So imagine if they changed that to 20 mile an hour, but they fined you for every time you'd been 30 miles an hour before they changed it. That's what happened to me. Right. So that was horrendous. And then...
Are you bitter about that?
I was, for a long period of time. I really, really was, because I felt so frustrated by it. And it also played out in public as well, because we had 12,000 square foot in the centre of Bournemouth, in my town, and because I had to make 106 people redundant because we went into administration, which I did personally. I didn't have to, and I don't want any awards for that. It's a horrendous thing to do, but I really tried to approach that challenge, again, with honesty and with integrity. I could have just said to the administrator, that's your problem, and walked out of that business, but I didn't. I stayed supporting them for numerous years. And there were some quite difficult things that were put in the press about me, locally and nationally. And within the comments section of the Echo, people were very, very unkind, and they continue to be as well. That's now 6 years ago, coming up to 6 years ago. And it's still referenced regularly. But also the flip side of the coin is, I don't let that define me anymore. I was really, really frustrated. I didn't give myself any time to think about it. The following day, I went back to work. I set up Big Golden Pineapple, and we went from there. And it was a really, really challenging time. But I didn't give myself time to grieve, really. And COVID gave me that time. It really gave me time to sit back and say, okay, that was so good, and I'm so proud of what I did, and so proud of what we did, but that's gone now, and that's okay, and I'm not going to let that define me. And what am I going to do next? What's going to be... that's a closed chapter of my story. What's the next chapter going to look like?
Talking of things that have gone, the countdown climber on that camera has reached 0. Yep. So we've reached the end of the show. Just one final question. You mentioned about the book of Dan's life. If somebody was writing the foreword and they wrote one sentence, what would you like them to say about Dan Ware? No swear words.
No, I leave that to the echo comments. I put my heart and soul into everything that I did. You know, Dan Ware works hard, is enthusiastic, helps everyone that he possibly can, and really gives 110% into everything he commits to.
Thanks very much, Dan.
Thank you, Chris.
That's it for the show.
Great.
So thanks for joining us this week. That's the end of this episode of Leading Lives. Join us again soon.